Hi, this is Rishabh Rajan here, reviewing the AVP Synth ADS7 analog drum synthesizer. This drum synth has 7 different voices, plenty of controls for each of the different elements. The focus here is more on the drum synthesis rather than the sequencing. On this first row, we get controls for the bass drum and clap. The hi-hats come next. After that, we get 3 generators. These 3 generators can be used to produce tom sounds, a snare sound, or anything else you can synthesize with the controls here. At the bottom here is a sequencer. It's a pretty standard 32-step sequencer. The 16 buttons here control the individual steps. With this button, you can select between the different sounds. So you can sequence the 7 different parts and even an external sound with the trigger output. From here, we can choose to sequence the first 16 steps or the next 16 with this button here. And then with this button, I can start the sequence. The ADS7 also has preset patterns, so I can swap out to this pattern here. There's a global tempo control. The machine can also be MIDI synced, so you can clock it to an external device. Alright, now let's explore some of the synthesis capabilities of this machine. I want to clear out the particular pattern we have here. So I'm going to click save and then hit load. And now this entire pattern is cleared out. When I hit play here, we don't hear anything, so we can start from scratch. Let's start with the bass drum. So there's a little trigger button here to audition the sound. Unfortunately, it cannot be used to record in the part. So we will have to use the step sequencer to enter in the steps for the bass drum. I'm just working with the first 16 steps here. Now let's check out some of the controls for the bass drum. There's a volume control here. Most of the sounds on the ADS7 are produced with 2 elements. Like over here, we have the tone control. You can bring it down really low or pitch it up. And that's the highest it goes. I'll set it to a lower value. There's a decay control for the tonal element of this kick drum. So we can make it nice and tight or lengthen it out to the maximum. There's this dial here which is called tone sweep, which I believe is the pitch envelope for that tonal element. But at the same time, it also seems to be controlling the overall length of the sound. That's at maximum. And at minimum, we're left with nothing. So between these 3 dials, we have quite a lot of control over that tonal element of the kick drum. Oh, and then also there's this tone level control. Then finally, there's a click level control. So that's the second element of this kick drum. We can also adjust the tuning of that click sound, though this is a very subtle control. So combining the sound of that click and the tone gives us the complete kick drum sound. Let's now check out the clap. So in the sound selection, I'll jump ahead to the clap. I'll add in the clap on some steps here. Now again, you can just choose to trigger it directly from here just to audition the sound. Let's check out the controls for it. Now this has a panner control because the ADS7 has a stereo output. Now when I'm panning this left or right, there is no change in the stereo imaging because right now I'm only monitoring the one output from the ADS7. So let me just change my monitoring output here to stereo mode. And now let's try this again. Now you can see how I've panned the clap to the left. And it also pans to the right. Alright, I'm going to leave in the center here. And let's check out some of the controls. A bit fewer compared to the bass drum. This is the noise mix. So this clap only uses one sonic element to produce the sound, unlike the other parts. There's a filter cutoff control with this style. The overall decay of the sound. There's this control called space, and according to the manual, it says it adjusts the attack time of the clap sound. Maybe if I bring up the noise mix, you hear that better. So you can hear when the space dial is down, the flamming within the clap sound is a bit less. Sounds good. Let's jump ahead to the hi-hats now. So we have two parts here, the open hi-hat and close hi-hat. Let's do the close hi-hat first. We can trigger to audition the sound here. And I'll go ahead and sequence a pattern. In this section over here, we have separate volume and pan control for the open and close hi-hats. I'm going to go ahead and sequence some of the open hi-hats so we can hear both of them simultaneously. Choking is on right now, so the two sounds choke each other, so essentially you just hear one or the other. But if I turn that off, you'll hear the two voices independently, and they do overlap. I'll leave the choking on. Let's now check out some of the synthesis controls for the hi-hat. This is the decay for the open hi-hat. Decay for the closed, cut off for the open hi-hat, and cut off for the closed. So there are two elements here, noise as well as this metallic element, and you can crossfade between the two. This is for the open hi-hat, and we have the same for the closed hi-hat. And lastly, with this style here, you can adjust the tonality of that metallic sound. Pretty cool. Let's move on to the generators. So all the three generators are identical in their controls. I'm going to sequence the first one here. Let's play around with its controls. Again, all this stuff is very similar to the bass drum, clap, and the hi-hat controls we've looked at so far. One exception is that you get to choose between the bandpass or low-pass modes for the filter on the noise. Now I am using the main stereo output of the synth, but there are individual outputs for all of these different parts. You also get trigger inputs on 1/8 inch connectors for each of the different parts. And that one individual trigger output is also on an 1/8 inch. So pretty simple and straightforward to integrate this with any kind of a EO rack setup. One thing to note is that the ADS7 runs on a 15-volt AC power supply unit, which is a bit rare, but fortunately the power adapter is included. So yes, a very simple, straightforward analog drum synthesizer, as the name suggests. Plenty of controls for each of the 7 different parts. In terms of sequencing, it's a bit bare-boned. Compare this to any other drum machine in the market and you'll definitely find at least the sequencer aspect of the ADS7 a bit wanting. But if you can look past that and look past the oddly shaped size of this machine, it is a really good analog drum synthesizer. This machine reminds me a bit of the Moog D-Fan, which is also a drum synthesizer, and that too does not have a very powerful sequencing engine. Alright, so I hope you like this review. This is Rishabh Rajan for Ask Audio signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.